This is That One Audition with Alyshia Ochse. We'll start in the beginning since you seem to be so entertained.
I was asking you about the origins of this podcast, and you said, take it from there.
I said it all started with farting, because I farted. Okay, so just to set the stage. So listeners, people that are new to the podcast that haven't scrolled all the way back to here's where it all started. 2009. I was in a class, Leslie Kahn, because I know you also worked with John Rosenthal.
I did.
I was going to do comedy. That was the thing that was going to happen. And I still was trying to get my foot into some things that were going to happen. Yeah, I was in this class. And Leslie is well known for really curating a very technical comedic performance.
Sure.
I have to say, in this audition, I was actually quite proud of myself. They were calling us in 2x2, Axe body spray, callback. There's the director and 15 of his buddies, because let's go back to 2009.
Right, yeah.
So we walk in, the director's, hey, Alyshia, basically take your clothes off, because Giselle, I love calling her Giselle. It wasn't Giselle, but she looked like her. Uh-huh. I jiggle back. They tell me about the spot, like you're going to fight to the death for this piece of meat that you smell over mountains and lakes and all through the rivers.
Can you say, what are we doing? What are we selling?
It's Axe body
spray. You're going to fight for a piece of meat.
This
really was 2009. This is yikes.
So we start running and the directors faster, harder, shove each other. I made a sound, John, that still to this day,
I'm so sorry, but I'm so happy.
I've not made.
You're incredible.
I'd never made that sound. Even when I got pregnant, maybe like some noises came out like that, but it was like a trombone came out of my ass.
Wow.
But since I was running so close to Giselle, here's where my immediate improv comedic timing turned. I turned and looked at Giselle and I was like, oh, how dare this beautiful piece of art fart?
You are awesome. This whole thing is awesome.
I did it again. I
don't understand how you did it again.
I don't even know. I don't know. At that point, my whole body flooded with hives. The director was like, okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. I had to still walk across the room to get my cover up, and I wouldn't bend over to get my cover up because now my body's betrayed me. Not once, but twice. Third time's a charm. I don't know what's going to happen.
Twice. Right.
I left. I start shimmying over. I slide down the wall to pick up my cover up. I'm holding it. As I'm walking out the door, when people are like, this face that happens when they're trying so hard not to laugh. They're just like, thank you so much.
You know what happens as soon as you leave, right?
Oh, as I'm closing the door, they're dying laughing. I'm dying laughing. So when we got to class that night, we're going around. It's all the namey people of today. Dropped all these names right now. It's I'm testing for whatever. I booked this. I'm reoccurring. And they got to me and I was like,
Alyshia, what happened to you?
I farted not once but twice about running the bikini. I don't think I'm going to get it. But I was really proud of my instincts in the moment to throw it at Giselle. And then everybody started sharing audition stories.
Right.
I was like, why has nobody talked about this part of it? Like the good, the bad, the ugly, the sideways. We don't talk about it. So it started as a book. And then it evolved into long form conversation. So it was meant to be funny, indulgent, ridiculous. Man. I was working with young storytellers at the time, and to see how kids were in their living rooms, right? So to see how kids respond to seeing actors.
Yeah.
I thought it was really important to also show as a creative how much you're failing before you actually get the opportunity 100%. To create. And that to me was the coolest part of it. So
you are doing the Lord's work. First of all, that story is incredible. It's super well told. It was fully lived and experienced. And you shared that as early as that evening, which speaks to the quality of your character and the tendency towards self-deprecation, but also the confidence, the self-assurity on some level to go, okay, this happened. And I can tell that story. And now you're telling it apparently for the second or third time on a hot mic. It's awesome. But also, it's such an awesome way to kick this conversation off, because I regrettably and excitedly was not an avid listener of your podcast prior to being approached and told that I was going to be invited to be on. I started listening because I wanted to understand what the nature of the conversation was. I say regrettably and excitedly because I'm feasting on back episodes right now, because I don't have any formal education. We'll get into having a conversation, talk about whatever you want, but I don't have any formal education. Everything I've learned about this business, I've just stolen. And recently, 10 years, a lot of my stealing has been podcasts, interviews, conversations, watching the little roundtables, whatever. I find that while they're typically being presented maybe for a broader audience in some way, there are pieces that you can steal. The beginnings of the conversations when they're talking about their origin stories, what have you. This podcast feels like it's just the fillet of that. This feels like you are very much doing it, and I hope you're having success and getting everything you want out of it, but it does feel like an earnest mission to inform the community that we're a part of as to just what in the hell's going on, a coalition that pulls the curtain back in whatever way and reminds us that we compete, I guess, but we coexist and we co-survive together. And anything that is shareable, teachable in any way that we can have multiple experiences at once. So anyway, I listened to Chris Marshall first, which by the way should be like a pinned episode. If you haven't heard that and you're listening to me, I have nothing to teach you. Hang up now and go listen to Chris Marshall, because that woman is sharing from the soul and
Yes.
really putting her cards on the table. And
Well,
then go ahead. You have things.
no, but I think that's what I want this show to be. Like you and I, we learned on the ground. We learned on the
Yeah.
ground. I got hired, I made mistakes. I got
Yeah.
fired, I made mistakes.
Yeah.
I in a room made mistakes. Okay,
Mm.
how's this work? To hear how somebody else has survived or thrived to me is so exciting, because somebody's going to take something from your journey. Just Chris's, yeah, her interview, dynamic. Why? Because she allowed it to all be out there. We can
Yes.
learn so much from each other.
That
Or
part.
take pressure off, because
Yeah.
Jon, you're on my favorite show right now. Like, and to get to most people's favorite show right now, that
Yeah.
takes a fucking, and not have the background of, I went to a conservatory. I love everybody. I work with
Right,
somebody who
right.
went to a
Sure.
conservatory.
Oh, yeah.
Just two totally different types of teaching, pros and cons to both.
Yeah.
Pros and cons to both.
Absolutely. But just to
I,
keep giving you flowers, I then listened
um,
to, I mean, I've listened to a lot of them really, honestly, in the last over the weekend, but I listened to a great interview you did with the guy, Aaron Stanford, terrific actor. And then at the end of Aaron
fantastic.
Stanford's, I'm just drinking everything this guy's saying, because you guys are just putting it out there. This is not, you can spend time on Where Were You Born and do the whole actor's studio thing, but this is tradesmen and women talking to their colleagues. And then he at the interview is, but you can't learn anything from me you couldn't learn from Patrick Adams. So then I go dive into Patrick Adams. And then at the end, maybe he references Billy Burke, or I just see him pop up and I'm getting that poured on me. And different people at different stages in their career, just saying, at the end of the day, the one thing we share is imposter syndrome. And we are out here in an isolated space that doesn't have to be maybe as isolated. Honestly, thanks to you. Thank you for having me. But even if this conversation ends right now, thank you for what you're putting out there. Because if you hang up on me, I'm just going to go start listening.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no,
I
thank you,
love,
really.
I this show exists because of the people that sit in your seat. I'm grateful that I had an opportunity, or I had an idea because of
Mhm.
failure, to put a mic.
I don't know if that's failure. I think that was
Or I had an
complete success
experience. I love
of
that I had that
some kind.
experience that I
Yeah,
was able to then turn around. For me, I was lacking a mentor. I
sure.
wanted to know, hey, how'd you do that? Okay, I'm gonna quit because this
That
is
part.
not going well. So like,
That part.
hey, can you scratch my itch right now? And anybody
Totally.
that sits here at the end when people are like, what's your favorite episode? It's usually the one I just did, right? Because
Yeah,
I'm like, I just learned so much.
I love
So
that. I
I'm
love that.
grateful to
So
hear
cool. What a
even
show.
how you've ping ponged around. I need to get in. Okay, I want to.
Let's start. Let me not chatter
I'm
because I'll
gonna.
chatter.
I no, I love this. Okay, the Fresh Beat Band.
Okay.
Let's go into a Nickelodeon show.
Yeah.
I think we're similar age, Ash. How old were you?
I'm 40. I'm about to be 41.
Okay, great, great. So you're doing a Nickelodeon show. To be an actor, you're just getting to work.
Yeah.
It's a different type of acting. It's a different genre.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to know about getting this.
Absolutely.
Because yeah, at this point where you're like mid-20s, just to get a
Hmm.
job is exhilarating. So I'm not knocking on the job. I'm
No, me
curious
neither.
getting the job and
Hmm.
then shaking off the job.
That
Because
part.
there's certain, as we're building our blocks, right? Some people get on soaps. Look, I got on a soap. I knocked a soap for years and years
Uh-huh.
until I
Yeah.
got the soap. And then I was like, wait a second, what?
And then you did some of the hardest, most honestly elite and athletic acting that exists in our industry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hardest acting that exists.
And
And then,
congratulations.
yeah, it's same for you. Then you get
Hmm.
out of that and you're like, but how do I'm not that, it's that acting thing where you don't want to be known for one thing or not. And
Totally.
the age that we are, we've shifted out of if you're in one box, you can't be in another. We have. But the Fresh Beat Band, let's start
So
there.
yeah, let me tell you the whole thing. So I got to LA the stupidest way, like to buy a car and sleep in it. Dumb. Just an absolute idiot. I came out here, a mentor had told me move to LA before you're 21. Crazy advice. I just took it because I didn't have anything else. So I came out here and I roach motels and found a roommate on Craigslist. Just stupid. But
Slightly
I
dangerous, not stupid, very like adventurous.
I made it, but
Did it.
it's
Yeah.
ill-advised, and it's a different city than it was, and who knows? Do whatever you're gonna do, but don't do it because I told you to. I can't believe that guy would give me that advice. That was absolutely crazy, but he did, and I'm grateful for it. Got out here. He takes me up. He's doing a play up at the Seattle Shakespeare Company. And he said, if you come up here, you can have a role in the company and I can't pay you, but I can get you an audition. If you get yourself cast, then you can watch these real actors that went to conservatory and you can steal from them because he knew that I would do that, which is my only skill set is that I'm a thief and I'll ask for help. And I find
Yeah.
that people actually want to help if you're pushing your own car. Went up there, watched all these actors work, would buy them lunch and ask them dumb questions. What's a beat? Really just learning from the beginning. And they'd look at you like you were crazy, but then eventually if you're earnest, then they would go, all right, cool. And over lunch, they'll explain what they learned in their process and what I'm just drinking it in. I met a friend up there who's still my friend today, Ian Merrigan, who, if you watched Paradise, plays the librarian, plays Trent the librarian. If you haven't seen the show, that's all we'll say about
Oh,
that. But that's my very best friend for 20 years. Complete coincidence that we were cast on the show together.
I love
Absolutely
when that happens.
absolutely crazy, yeah. But so I met Ian there, and Ian's a very talented musician. He's as good, if not better, as a musician than he is as a very talented actor. We started making music together. I came back to LA after the show. We're making music together. He's living in New York. I'm popping out to New York. We're making this music, and we were making like hip hop and blues music. Who knows if it's any good, but I was really active in that, and I wasn't sure how they would marry together. But I'm 21, 2 years old. I'm just trying to be a creative person in the bohemian scene, whatever. We ended up actually co-writing a musical with a couple other friends of ours that they did up at the Oregon Shakespeare Festival. So that
Uh-huh.
comes later, but the beginnings of the music was happening. So meanwhile, I'm auditioning. I had gotten a manager who had seen me very early and was very supportive of me, but I don't think she knew what to do with me. I had done a play here in LA at the Odyssey Theater that was a great show. And I actually ended up doing another play with the director, but I'm working for free. I'm making coffee. I'm going to Seattle on my own dime and sleeping on a friend of a friend's couch and losing a bunch of money and then having to come back here and work some more. I'm popping out to New York. And of course, the two auditions that my agent ever gets me, he gets me in the weeks that I'm in New York. And so I'm like, it's
Yes.
at the beginning, bumbling parts of a career, and I don't know what I'm doing and I can't make any money and I'm making coffee. And then this audition comes around, fast forwarding to it. I've been here 4 years or
To
something
say
like
like
that.
4 or 5 years at this
Yeah,
point.
exactly. And you read for things and they go, but I don't know. I have no idea what I'm doing. I knew from a very early age, I knew from high school and a really special teacher in high school that the core of what I think is still the core of what I offer. I still feel I've got this central thing that like I feel in my chest. I this is there's something here and it doesn't feels egoless. It's just this, I carry this and I want to bring this to whatever. That thing, I had that, I knew about that, but I didn't have any technique. I had no business savvy. I All of that was learning on the fly. So anyway, so this audition comes around and they want me to come in and sing 16 bars of a pop song and then do some dance choreography. I love to sing, but I'm not a talented singer, not like these guys. They saw 5,000 people for this show. They saw them on both coasts. They saw
Whoa.
them video, they saw them in person. They saw a lot of people because they were trying to put together a pop group for little kids, right?
The Mickey Mouse Club, a version of,
Effectively,
yeah.
or the Partridge Family, or what, something like. And so, anyway, I go in, and I'm my manager's assistant, who I still owe a pack of beer for this, calls to make sure I remember I've got this audition. This is back in in-person days, and says, you remember you got this thing? And I was like, yeah, I remember I got this thing. And I'm getting ready to go in there and just absolutely underwhelm these people and then figure out what I'm gonna do for the rest of the afternoon. And he goes, all right, man, just want to make sure you knew, go in there and rap your little heart out. And he said that. And it was as I'm headed into this thing, it occurred to me, I was like, wait a minute, that's a person. He's a professional person. He's my manager's assistant. He just said rap. I'm not being asked to rap. I'm being asked to sing a pop song, but I do this rap music. And I was like, what if I just break the rules? It hadn't occurred to me before, but what if I went in there and just did something that I know is dope, even though it's not what they're asking for? And so I went in and I put together a Ben Harper song and some verses that I had written, and I treated it more like an open mic than an audition because they were saying sing something, right? And I just did my original song, and the guy seemed to notice me, and then that was that. And I left and didn't think much of it. And then 7 rounds of callbacks because they put us through it. And it was my first contract ever, and I love Nickelodeon. God bless them. The contract they're having you sign before your test is a low ball, and there it's the junior leagues and whatever. As that's happening, my manager called and was like, okay, this is getting really serious. They really like you for this. And the only reason that I was considered, honestly, is because there's 2 other actors on the show, Yvette Gonzalez Nasir, who has originated multiple roles on Broadway, and Tommy Hobson, who's like an Obie Award winning. These guys are unbelievable vocalists. So they don't need that part anymore. And I'm the wild card. I think they're just bringing me in because like I'm interesting or something. I'm the X factor or whatever. But my manager called me and she said exactly what you're saying now. She was like, look, this is getting really serious and this is a certain type of thing, right? This is, you come out here and I thought I was going to be James Dean, and now I'm
Of
going
course,
to,
immediately. You're like,
yeah.
T minus like 2 years. I'm in, right?
Exactly. And they're saying, I just want you to think about it. Just think about it before you go in tomorrow. And like, it's Partridge Family, and that's cool, but it is what it is. I called my buddy Steve, who was broke out here, another actor with me, and I started saying that to him. And God bless Steve for this, but Steve, like, really genuinely, earnestly, he let me run my thing down. And then he was like, so wait a minute, hold up though. They're going to pay you to do acting, right? And I was like, bro, you're right. I don't know what I was on. I'm so sorry I even bothered you. Of
Yeah.
course, I'm going in and I'm going to take absolutely whatever the universe is presenting me. If I get to stop making coffee professionally and get into actually being in front of a camera, whatever. And I had done some clown training when I was a kid and loved it, and done comedies and musicals in high school. It was just all I needed to check was this weird ego that was only recently developing, being here with being around kids that are going to conservatory and everybody's wondering who's going to be the new it dude. And as soon as I was like, screw that, let's go see what this adventure is, I got to work for this husband and wife couple that made this show with their 6-year-old daughter in mind. We used to do producer runs on Wednesdays, and they would put her in front of everybody. So the producers would come in and watch the show, because in a multicam, you've done this, you do the show like a play for the producers. They'd sit this precocious little 6-year-old Beatrice, who's now graduated from college. That's how old I am. I would sit her up in the front and we would try to make her laugh. And if the joke made B laugh, then it stayed in the show. And if it didn't, we rewrote it by Thursday morning. And so it was this little family thing that was happening. And I think it turned into a really special show that meant a lot to families. It meant a lot to communities we didn't expect it to. It was very cool. It had a lot of heart in it. And it
And
was
what did you
wonderful.
learn? Yeah, and you got your 10,000 hours.
I got my 10,000 hours. I'll be perfectly honest with you. I have no idea what I'm doing. The first take we did of the Fresh Beat Band, don't Google it and don't watch it. But if you do Google it and you do watch it, the first take I did of that show, the producer came over to me and was like, hey man, can you bring it down a little bit? And that's
Yeah.
the Fresh Beat Band, Alyshia. So that's how much I knew about working in front of a camera
Mm.
and how to interface with the technology and how to make a performance that's going to work. I knew nothing. So I learned in a consequence-free environment how to be on a set, and not consequence-free. There was a really high standard for what we were doing, but it was somewhere between theater and film acting. And so I got
You
to
got
do
a
this,
paid for a transition. You
that
got paid
part,
for transitional learning,
that
essentially,
part.
from what you
Exactly.
were getting to do, bopping around, even being on stage and performing. How
Yes.
great. Now, coming off of that, do you have resistance from the industry to percolate into other things? Because at that point, when you come off the show, you're getting close to 30,
Yep.
right?
Yes, I was doing it for about 7 years, that show. And so I was about 30 coming out of there. Yeah.
Thank you, pockets, because that's the other thing too. And I'll come from I'm curious from the Nickelodeon perspective.
Yeah.
Were you getting one or two takes like soaps? You get one take, one take.
Yes. No, you guys, honestly, the only people I'll take my hat off to are you folks on the soaps. You guys are working harder than we were working. We are the second hardest working
Okay, so you get two
group.
takes then, because it's
Yeah,
comedy.
we
So
get
you
we get
one
two
little bit more.
takes, we get maybe three, but it was the thing that was crazy about it was the dance and the music. On a Saturday, we would go in and record the new song. Sundays you got off. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we were learning the new song, the new choreography, the script, the jokes, the what have you. And then Thursday and Friday, we would shoot the thing. And then Saturday, you'd record the new song. So it was like being on set was exhausting. And then it became a touring show. We started taking
Mhm.
it around the country and performing it live at these big venues. And once they realized how lucrative the tour was, they didn't even want us to go back. It was initially supposed to promote the fourth season of the show, but they realized they could make a grip out there because the show had gotten really popular. And if you sell one ticket to a family, you've sold four tickets,
Mhm.
right? So we outsold the Chili Peppers and Bob Dylan that year.
What?
Serious. Yeah, we were
You're a
huge.
rock. You're a rock star. Like,
I
why do
was a
you
rock star. If you were
between the ages of
7 years old in like
yeah.
2010, I'm a Beatle. You don't care about anything else. Paradise, Schmeradise.
Right.
So it was what it was, and it was awesome. And then I'm getting out of it. And so my agents, what they ended up doing was just taking it off of my resume. And they started sending me out as a theater guy because I had done that during one of the hiatuses. I had gone up and we created a show at Oregon Shakespeare Festival, which was incredible that they produced our play. And then we did it in San Francisco as well at ACT. I had a theater thing. It was very successful. They just started saying, this guy has come from theater and he's now in LA. And would you see him? They,
Smart.
it,
Again, it's all positioning. Like even who is it? Sky Black, not Sky P. Marshall. Sky Black that I interviewed. He was going in a certain lane. He changed his name so he could
yeah,
redo the lane he wanted to step into. Wasn't didn't mean the lane before was
right.
bad, but just we get to show where what the industry to look at per se.
It is all, at the end of the day, it's show business, right? And don't be dishonest.
We're not being dishonest. We're just
Don't take
sharing.
advantage of people, but
We're putting light over here versus the light over here. That's just
I'm helping you
positioning.
see what you want to see, right?
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
hey, we're talking about that one audition, and I've been listening to all these really generously shared stories, yours most especially. And I'll say that coming out of it, the formative audition coming out of it that helped me understand what I needed to do next was Sherry Thomas, who is my patron saint and will forever be just one of the most generous collaborators. She's a casting director, obviously, and with Sharon Bialy.
Yeah,
And
Thomas. Yeah.
yeah, and they're wonderful. That office is fantastic and casts some really great stuff. I ran into them really early. They were casting Gotham. And
Mhm.
at the time, I weighed a lot less. I didn't have any muscle on me. I was the skinny kid in this band and whatever. And I was coming in and I had done this comedy thing and I was reading for the Riddler. And they actually ended up getting in the mix of that conversation right out of this show. However, to get to that point, I read for Sherry, and
Okay.
Sherry really generously in the audition. I tell the long version where I actually did the third audition, the one where you're driving back in your car, and I
The
freaked
windshield
out and
audition. I love that.
realized
Yes.
I knew what I should have done, and I snuck
Yes.
back onto the lot, which was crazy. I told them I left my wallet. It was totally nuts, but I went back and don't do that. Don't ever do that, and actually don't tell that story.
No,
But
I've done that before too. I want to hear what did you do? Did it?
I just went back and I was like, I know, I could tell that she saw something and she was asking me for more and I couldn't do what she wanted. And then I figured it out in the car and I came back and I just wanted to throw myself at the mercy of somebody. It's like you said, I wanted a mentor and I know you saw something. What am I doing? What am I not doing? And she was so sweet and so honest to me. She was like, first of all, how'd you get back on the lot? And I straight up told her, I was like, I lied. I said that was my wallet. She was like, okay, here's the thing. I'm already going to bring you back in for producers because I like you for this role. She's like, but what you're doing is affected. And she just straight told me to my face, she's like, what you're doing is there's something on what you're doing. And this is the office that cast Breaking Bad. This is the office where Terry Gilliam said, tell actors do nothing. And she's like, you're doing something on top of something great. You're great. And you're doing something on top of it. And that might be too much to give somebody. I don't know if that's what you should do, but she did it for me. And it was the tough love that I needed. It was very, say what you're saying, because you have a thought too.
Oh, no, great insight.
Incredible.
Way to take a critique. How
Mhm.
do you implement that as
Right.
an actor where you're like, okay, don't do too much. Okay, so I want to prep, but I don't want to come up out and over it. Like, I think that's what I call it when actors come up and over it. I'm like, hey, you're
Love it.
here, you're coming up.
That's right.
Just come in. But that's a hard thing for
So
certain actors that aren't trained. Like, how did you distill that into something you could do?
I had no training at all. So I had no idea what was the difference between what she was saying she saw and what was affected. How do I fix this? I have no idea. But I don't mind making a fool of myself and I love asking for help. So I went to the Leslie Kahn studios because somebody had said, this is the studio of the moment and this is the person. And a friend had gone there and I went in and I was like, I'm sorry, I have this audition. It's coming up on Monday or a call back on Monday. Is there anybody that can work with me over the weekend? I'll give you my coffee money. Or at that time I had Fresh Beat Band money.
Nickelodeon.
So
Yep.
I'll give you my Nickelodeon money. Please help me. And I worked with an actor named Todd Stashwick, who is a fantastic actor. He's on the Star Trek and you see him all over the place. Great, talented dude, but also a really good coach. And he came in for a one-on-one meeting. I'd never been to an acting class before, really. So I'd been to theater and I had not done it about the camera. He was working with me for a second and he said, yeah, I see what she's talking about. You've got funny bones. He says, you've got comedy in your bones and it's little things. It's flourishes with your hands. It's a sense of having to ice the cake, right? And he's like, let me show you. And he just did it. And I watched him do it. And I asked this question, and this question is a really dumb question for a person who had been able to work in television already, but like at a certain kind of television, right? I watched him doing it and I said, wait a minute, Todd, is it less than real life? Because for me, that was an aha.
That's what it was
That's where I
registering.
was at,
Uh-huh.
right? And he goes, oh my God, yeah, it's like way less than real life. And he was working on The Mentalist at the time. And he was like, when I'm across from Simon Baker, he said, I can't even hear what he's saying most of the time. I wait for his lips to stop moving and then I say my line. He's like, the camera is picking you up at a distance. I don't know how he said it, but I now tell people that are coming from theater, brilliant actors and trying to figure out how to interface with this technology that like, first of all, I think you should audition with a mic, with a lav mic. I know that you probably
Mhm.
do, but that took me a second to adjust to. I've only recently gotten a really nice one, but you work on set with a lav mic. So you should be approaching it, I think, the whole way, knowing that your voice at an almost inaudible level and your face at an almost imperceptible level is being read by, I like to picture like football stands, like where what do you call them? Like stadium stands of like little fairies, like inches from your face. Like it's not a person standing close to your face. It's a tiny person. You're massive. You're huge. And of course we know that. There's actors that have already turned this off because they're sophisticated professionals and I'm sorry, y'all, but this is where I was learning. And he was showing me like, oh, brother, you've only got technical adjustments to make. He's like, what you're doing is right. You're just broadcasting it at a frequency that is not meeting the technology where it's at.
I think that's a beautiful way of saying it. There's a frequency for soaps. There's a frequency for Nickelodeon. There's
That
a
part.
frequency for Paradise.
That
You
part.
need to know what frequency you're in or what genre
Hmm.
you're in. You
Yeah,
can allow the camera to do the work for it, or the casting director sitting inches from you to like
exactly.
invite them in.
Exactly.
Oh, So then
So
did that feel easy then to implement once he was like technical here, technical, and what were some of the technical notes?
it was a lot. It's about stillness. It's all very basic. If you've done this, then you have already begun the journey of trusting the technology to come to you and
Mhm.
how minimal that requires your external performance to be, while your internal performance can still be fireworks and monsters. But you can't reach at all with that. You can't reach to the back row of the Elizabethan theater. You can't reach 10 feet to the camera. And that, at least for me, was practical. And I realized I took back in an audition. I got in the mix. I was able to technically implement what felt to me like restraint at the time.
Mhm.
I was able to at least hold myself still. And that was good. But I'm honestly glad they didn't give me that job because I really wasn't ready for it. I wasn't. And I then dove headlong into class. I actually ended up finding John Rosenfeld, who had been a teacher at Leslie's and
Mhm.
started his own studio. And I went with the same earnestness that I had gone to Todd and was like, okay, I know what I know and I know what I don't know. And I
Mhm.
need to submerge myself in education. And the way that they were teaching there was really frustrating for me because it was about television genre. It was about knowing what show you're in. It wasn't, and I was still interpreting it through the lens of my insecurity, having been really only
Mhm.
validated by this kids show. There's a huge part of me that still wonders, am I good? Can I do this? Am I only that? And so I'm just trying to be honest, ferociously honest in everything that I'm doing, and hope to God that magic can move through me. And that's awesome. But when he's trying to get me to really specifically execute Chicago Med, like the notes are about whether or not you're playing the correct sheet music. They're not
It's
about whether or
pacing.
not,
It's
yes,
pacing. It's television. We've got a timing to this musicality. And if you're not hitting it, you're never going to get hired. Some of the best actors never got hired on television like this
absolutely.
because of the musicality.
I at least was lucky enough coming through the side door and being a moron. I at least knew that, oh, you're not talking about the central core of what I have to offer as an artist. You're talking about the sheet music. I'm
Mhm.
playing jazz, and it doesn't matter if I'm a brilliant jazz musician. You're asking for polka, so I'm never going to get this job. And
Mhm.
it began about 5 years of me religiously living in class and going twice a week and taking audition boot camps. And then I started to get my own auditions, and so I was doing them. But when they weren't coming in as frequently as I'd like, I was picking up other people's sides, and I was beating myself into shape until what had felt like restraint at the beginning just became like a notch on the dial. And I
Yes.
was able to find that frequency without muscular constriction. It was just another place I could live, and then I could live a million lives, whatever life was being asked of me, but it would meet the technology in a way that allowed the audience to suspend their disbelief as opposed to me shaking them out of it. Do you know what I
Or
mean?
yeah, or forcing them in. Yeah, inviting them in. Okay,
Inviting them in. I love
but
that.
for Gotham, you end up doing Gotham 2014. So I'm wondering just to fill that gap in from that
Yeah.
first time in with Sherry, and she's like, "Listen, you do this," and you don't get it because I
Yeah.
love that you get to play a comedian because it
I
also
did.
it allows some of your natural instincts and more broad behavior
Exactly.
to match in that world. So how long from that time where she gave you
Well,
that?
I was in the pilot. I was in the pilot. They gave me that role as a consolation prize because for 2 weeks I was in the mix with Corey Smith is his name, who absolutely should have played that role and did it brilliantly. But they were really considering me because I had, with her note, been able to come in and show enough of an approximation of where I would later learn to be able to live comfortably in front of the camera. And as a consolation prize, they were like, we need this guy who was really just supposed to make people wonder if he was the Joker for a moment. And they gave me that role and I got to do it. It was a big enough opportunity for me. I've been a series regular on a television show, but I had lived in a certain kind of world. And so this was my first chance being on what felt to me like legit television.
Mhm.
And I'm working with great actors and great writers and being in something that feels to me was where I know I needed to go.
It was graduating you to the next platform, not even
Absolutely.
staircase. I love because that's 2014, and I just want to
Yep.
catch the people up that are listening. 2019, so another 5 years later, before you get a responsibility that's going across seasons again with Animal Kingdom.
with
And
Animal Kingdom.
I'm wondering if anything,
Yeah, huge transition moment for me. So I spent about 5 years
it kind of
really
matches.
in class. I'm religious about it. And that's
Mhm.
the thing, if I'll give myself any credit for anything, it's not really natural ability, although I've got something I've always known I had, but I'm obsessed with this. Like I will take the Pepsi challenge with the next kid who thinks he's as hungry as I am for this. That's the only thing I've got going for me. And so when I knew there was something to work on, when I understood like, this is where I am and this is where I can go, I didn't want to
Mhm.
be doing it less than twice a week, even on weeks when it was so arduous. Like I really wanted to be putting myself through the paces. And then somewhere in the middle there came this audition for The Long Road Home, which was for National Geographic. And that was to play this soldier who turned out to be a real life war hero who was working as a technical advisor on the show and was there every day and coached my performance, became a great friend and a fishing buddy. And I got to live with this man who was helping me tell the true story of what these soldiers went through. During that casting process, I didn't think the description of this guy is like kicks through doors, eats glass. You know what I mean? And I was like, okay, I'm Twist from the Fresh Beat Band, so I won't be doing that. But I had been practicing new vocalization, new physicality. I'd been practicing genre. I'd been challenging
Mhm.
myself. I thought, okay, here's a challenge. Let me go in and read this with everything I've got. And the showrunner, Miko Alan is his name, had told National Geographic that with the exception of three or four leads, Sarah Wayne Callies and Michael, who played Valesky, with the exception of the big actors, they were going to cast nobodies, or they were going to look at tapes without turning over the resumes.
Inquiry that they were going for. They were trying to
Exactly.
find somebody. I
And
love that
so
when it's like new, but has a resume, but nobody knows. But
yeah,
yes.
yeah. And Michael Kelly at the time was just coming off of Doug Stamper and was enough to go, okay, we got actors. And then underneath them, we've got whoever kills it. Right. And so
Mhm.
I came and did this audition and I don't know, they saw something in me and he gave me that chance. And so anyway, I did this project and it was immersive. We did boot camp for 6 weeks and we lived on the set we lived on the base that we shot the thing on an army base in Texas and we lived on base, real soldiers around. They embraced us, they helped, they were the background actors, and the Gold Star families that had lost people in this conflict, the real soldiers that had been there, they came and they barbecued with us and they told our
Oh.
stories. And it was the kind of thing that you're dreaming of where you go, okay, nothing is more important than this work. And I'm lunging into it with my whole heart. I'm going to do this with everything that I've got. And that got me past imposter syndrome and into anything I've got that serves this story is more important than whether or not I think I'm good enough or ready or what have you. And I was able to do work that I'm still very proud of and in a project that I'm still very proud of. And so coming out of the other side of that, I knew something about myself. And now all of a sudden my agents had something to show people and say, okay,
Mhm.
and they even started to say at this point, now they're like, actually, he was on the Fresh Beat Band, but now look what he can do. So suddenly
Yes.
the credit kind
Now
of
we
comes
can
back,
bring in
right?
all of you, all of
Exactly,
your.
yeah. And Michael Kelly was a mentor for me, still is, and was an actor who obviously is tremendous, but at the time was really experiencing like a rocket ship moment in his career, but wanted to play this character because he loved the story. And he took us out, us guys, ragtag group of young dudes, and basically said at the bar one night, you guys can ask me anything, just like around pool,
Would
shooting
you
pool,
ask?
drinking
Because
beer.
from you saying earlier that you took that other actor out and you're like, Tell me the thing."
Yeah.
At this point in your career, what do you ask him?
I think it was about permission. I think it was about how do you find the place where you feel like you can walk onto a set and you know what you're doing better than anybody else. And a lot of what he gave me, like he always does, is you tell me, man. Like I already see it in you. So
Mm.
you're just not ready to recognize it in what you're already doing. And it was me going, oh, I have made progress. I've gone from I've gained ground, and my instrument is more tuned now to the frequency that I wanted on. And this dude who I really respect is reflecting that back to me. And he's continued to be that career advice and what have you. But a lot of it is he's a homespun, awesome ass beer drinking dude. And sometimes you just need somebody to be like, you're going to do this for the rest of your life. And that's what he told me. He was like, you're going to do this for the rest of your life, man. So you've got what it takes. You just decide when you need little moment to moment practical advice, I'll be there for you. But as far as like the whole thing is, you're the guy. You're supposed to do this. And
that's everything. That's everything. I think that it gives he gave you permission.
Exactly. Yes, he did.
I think when we start in this, what I've noticed, a theme that I always see in the podcast is there's always one person at some point in somebody's career, whether it's a teacher when they're young, a parent, where somebody says, hey, you can do this, because so many other people are telling you can't. So I think that it creates an approval seeking mentality out of a lot of actors.
Yeah.
So it's nice when you get to that place of it's no longer approval seeking because you have it. So having somebody reflect that to you, then you get to take onus. And yes, you may not work all the time. I just had an interview with a wonderfully dynamic actor, and they said exactly the same thing, that somebody said to them, hey, you're going to do this forever. Henry Winkle said that. So you're going to do this forever. So decide what else you're going to do.
Exactly.
Because once you realize you're going to do this forever, there's going to be lean times. There's going to be like fatty times. You're going to go through it all. So your confidence, because I think so much of this, yes, once you learn the technical, then it is just the confidence of walking on, being like, okay, I know what I'm doing here. I'd like to play ball, but I'm coming in with a very sharp perspective and point of view. That's why you got hired.
It's terrible that we need it, because I wish we could skip that part and get right on to caring more about the work than ourselves. But the truth is, we came from far and away, and we got to this place. And the first thing that we're dying to know is, do I in any way belong here? Is this thing that I believe in so much that I slept in a car and drove across the country? Can you see it too? And to get that back lets you go, great. And then very quickly on the heels of that is, yeah, cool. You got it. Now what are you going to do? And and then the next part is freeing, because you go, oh, in that case, then I love this story and I respond to this more than I respond to this. And I can bring this extra little bit, or I can have a life outside of the work, and I need to, and I can treat my relationships as if they matter as much as my business. And I got a check now, and that check lets me open up my aperture and take in the world better.
The TV and film landscape, it's constantly changing, but traditional actor training has largely remained the same.
It's focused on a theater model whose main goal is to help you stretch the expression of your instrument. That's why you can have years of training,
from scene study classes to audition classes,
to even an MFA, and still not be able to book a 2-line co-star.
That's why we created The Bridge for Actors,
a collection of tech, craft, and business online courses to teach you the skills that you need to go from a student of acting
to a working actor.
A little bit more. Then, for sake of time, because I am dying to get to Paradise, I just want the audience to know, you go on season 4 and join Animal Kingdom. You're with them for a while. There's one thing about joining a show when it's in its 4th season. That's one thing.
Yeah.
You did beautiful work on that. I have to jump to Paradise, though, because here's a pilot from Dan Fogelman, and it's a whole new world that we're setting up for this. You come in, pilot episode. I have access to that pilot episode.
That's awesome.
Because I was tracking the show.
That's awesome.
I want to know, getting this audition, and I'm assuming it's the scene that you have with Sterling K. Brown, because you guys are supposed to be playing friends, like that. That Paradise City, that first scene that we see you, it's jogging, right? Like you guys are jogging in the park and having this whole conversation.
Yeah.
But there is so much great banter and history already instantaneously created with one of the best actors possibly, I think, of our time right now.
I agree with you. Yeah.
Oh, Sterling's already hired. I want to know your approach to Billy from the get-go, because from you going from this start of, okay, I'm going to learn on the ground, or I'm stealing from other people.
Yeah.
It's such beautiful written scene, and it's much different than what ended up on the screen. From the pilot itself, it's very snappy. It's a lot of great history. It's a fast movie. It's pacing, kind of everything you were just talking about, understanding the musicality. How do you approach this audition, or even how does this float past your desk? Like, what a show.
Okay. You're being very generous to me. I talked so much at the beginning that I haven't left this time to chart the course. I don't need to, but the Animal Kingdom part is important because I get this role that I'm on for a couple of years. It's awesome, but mostly it's just time on set. And I learned a lot, but it was also just reps and a chance to come to set often and feel like a regular with very little to do, honestly. But it gave my team, I think, a way of sending me out in a different way. This guy's been a series regular on a show that you recognize, gets you more chances.
Opportunity. Yeah.
And so that's in the mix of how this gets to me. I also got to work for Kevin Costner on the Horizon movies, which was a bizarre experience as well, because that felt like getting plucked into an incredible world, and imposter syndrome comes back, but in a different way. But I'd had those experiences and felt successful in that work. So when Paradise comes along, I mentioned those quickly to say I'm not the kid from earlier so much.
Working mileage. You've got mileage underneath you.
And I've got a sense of what works and what doesn't, how to bring myself to something in a way that I get the general expressions of me, that what I have in my tool belt, I understand better, right? So I'm reading this guy, and what's really fun is that this pilot that you read, it's extremely compelling. It's subtle, but it's very active. And the relationships are so complicated. And then there's a massive twist. And so you're being played on emotional levels. You're being played intellectually, incredibly fun. Billy gets to bring in some of the humor to the show. And so one of the first notes I recognized immediately was like, oh, I want to be in the show. I want to be in the show that they're doing. But I think I get to play the discordant notes. I get to play
the jazz.
A little bit, right? I get to be just outside of it and be the oddball who has charmed his way into this position, right? Before I really understand all of the backstory, because I would get that later in the audition process. But I'm bringing that and knowing what works on me. But then you're also meeting Dan and you're meeting Sterling. And these are people with such compelling energies, such inviting and empowering energies, that I know I'm in great hands. And so there's this permission almost to go, all right, so what are you guys doing? And so it's a little bit of a plan. And then it's also a little bit of, okay, what am I doing that works with you? And with Sterling, I've always found great advice when you feel overwhelmed and you're working with a hero and you're like, what am I going to do on day one? Or anytime, is start with the relationship that you have. And you can't meet Sterling K. Brown for 5 minutes without having a real relationship with that guy. He's too real and inviting, and feet planted on the ground, but hands to the sky. He's a massive energy, and it's disarming and it's intoxicating, and you want to be around him. You want to play with him. And so and he's cooking it up intentionally. He knows he's letting my guard down, and he's inviting the best out of me because he's rooting for me. And it was really easy to just find a rapport that was a little bit of our rapport, and then drop it in. And we're finding tonally what the scene is anyway, what the tone of the whole show is. You could tell the creators were still feeling it out, because we're doing like noir and murder mystery, and we're doing sci-fi, but we're also doing This Is Us, and we're also cracking some dirty jokes sometimes. And so it's a bit all over the place, and they knew what they wanted, but they were also exploring too.
And was your initial audition with Dan and Sterling, or did you make a tape?
I made a tape. No, okay. I made a tape.
And I reverse engineer then, because I want to know everything even that you just said. It's noir. It's sci-fi. It's this. It's
Yeah,
Dan Fogelman. It's so when you go and you read, especially for pilots, because I think exactly what you said, tonally, we're figuring it out. We're going to figure it out even when we get to the place of shooting the pilot still. So as an
yeah,
initial tape, because I do love asking this, other than reading the script, you've got this amazing
absolutely.
toolbox that you've just put together over the last 20 years. Now here comes this audition. What tools are you pulling out to throw down a tape to then be invited to play with Sterling and Dan?
Okay, yeah. So I mean, I could tell that this was the guts of This Is Us. You can feel Dan's rhythm, and so you can go back and you can watch the cadence with which he writes, his sense of humor, and that's nice because an artist is an artist. They're going to paint a million different things, but you can see their style. And so I can hear that, I can get that musicality. And then also there's, like I said, there's this crassness and out of placeness to Billy. There's this, the first thing I'm doing is saying, I got to go take a shit. And I thought, all right, I
Yeah.
get to take a piss. I get to be the jester here.
The comedian
And
again, like Gothic.
exactly. But I know this guy's a heavy, and I don't know to what extent at that time, but I know that I need to come in and bring Secret Service. I need to come in and bring this sort of bro-ish masculinity that could potentially be dangerous. And I've got all that time on Animal Kingdom living in that genre. And honestly, working for John Wells is great
Yes.
because you wouldn't be there if he didn't trust you to do your job. And
Exactly.
I was there long enough that, and not doing a lot, that it was what I ended up doing with that time was practicing being at ease in this genre, in this minimal dude energy kind of space. Then working for Kevin, I won't go on about that because we don't have the time, but I learned a million things from that guy about this. He's a leading man, and being around him is like being in leading man school. And so I have all of that.
Packed into your suitcase, your
Yeah,
toolbox that you can pull out.
so it was like, let me bring some of those energies and be a goofball at the same time and see if the chemistry could be, and you're approximating, right? Because you're like, I don't know what they're writing, and they're not 100% sure what they're writing, but it's these flavors. And then I'm told, okay, they like your tape and they want to meet you via Zoom, and Tiffany Little Canfield and Dan Fogelman pop up, right? And you're like, wow, okay, this is nuts. And so now I'm still in my living room with like books piled and my laptop on top of it,
Yeah.
and my wife helping me get the sound right and whatever. But now I can at least see what they're responding to. And like, when am I in what you're trying to do? And get nudges, really polite nudges to like, no, this is the lane. I think we're going this way. And it was, for the most part, it was what my instinct was. But now we're playing, and that's helpful. And Dan is playful. Tiffany Little Canfield is extremely playful. And so then it was they call you again, let's do a chemistry read with me and Nicole Bryden Bloom. There was actually
Oh.
three actors coming in for Billy and three actors coming in for Jane. And so I still don't have it. And actually, at this point, really flatteringly and famously, Dan Fogelman wrote a long tweet rant about my audition, and he talked to a Hollywood Reporter about it too. And he says some really flattering and very sweet things that I don't know if I'm entirely deserving of, but he had me do a couple of scenes with Nicole, and we could tell that we had a great thing, and she's so talented. But he kept me back after the audition. He held on to me and said, "Can I just talk to you?" And so I'm leaving. I'm already like, oh my God, I'm at a test and all the nerves of the feeling. But he calls me back and he's like, "Hey, listen, we really like what you're doing. I'm through the roof. Okay, that's awesome." He said, but basically he let me know there are some sizable actors circling this role, and not more than the ones that were there today, because it's an awesome role and it's Dan Fogelman. And he's like, I feel like I need more if I'm going to push you through the network, the studio level. Would you be willing to do this additional scene? And he was like, it's a big scene. It's from the 4th episode and blah, blah, blah. And it's the scene with Julianne where I
It's my
stepped to her
favorite.
and- yeah.
My favorite. You
I'm
and
so
Julianne.
glad.
Julianne that was a masterpiece in acting.
Dude,
That scene.
again,
I told my agent, I was like, please go watch for this scene specifically.
I'm conscious of your time, so I won't spend too much time on
please.
that.
No,
but,
get
like,
into that. I want to know if you have time. I want to listen to it because the audience
Okay.
will also. Please.
all right, awesome. So yeah, the first of all, auditioning for it, I'm now going to go in and read that scene for Dan and Glenn Ficarra and John Requa, the directors. And
Mhm.
the truth is, so Dan tells a story, and it's very sweet the way he tells it. He's married to an actor, Caitlin Thompson, who's a lovely actor. And so he says in the tweet, he says, I'm aware of what a shitty journey being an actor can be and how much rejection I'm aware of. Apparently, he told Caitlin that he had thrown me this extra scene on the day, and she was like, that's awful. You can never do that to anybody again. He's like, I'm aware of how hard it is. And the fact that it went well, because spoiler alert, it went well. He compliments me in the tweet, and I don't like repeating the compliment, except that what he
Please do.
complimented is the fact that it would have taken a lot of time previously to be ready to do that. And that moved me, because to be complimented for being talented, I don't know. I might have tricked you. I don't know. It may be or maybe not. To be complimented for the days and weeks and months that you go to class, or you invite your friend over to help you with your tape, or you help them with their tape, or you pick up sides and read them for no reason, and you're auditioning, the offer's already out and whatever. To be complimented for the hours of doing that honestly, if I'm really honest with you, it wasn't that hard what he gave me.
Because you've been riding the bike for a long time. That
it's
scene
just
is
what I'm
beautiful, but that scene requires so much reservation for your character and precision
Thank you.
and holding a space
Yeah.
that, yeah, 20 years of you doing your time and effort, I think really shows up in that moment. Effort.
Thank you.
Like riding a
Alyshia.
bike. You've been riding your bike for a while and they're like, hey, can you go ride the bike right now
Yeah.
through fire? And you're like, well, sure. I've been riding it for a while.
And that honestly was how it felt. And so if I'm helping at all contribute to what you're building here, like trying to pull the things out of my pocket that I wish somebody would have told me, and the time spent doing the arbitrary shit, the tedium of practicing and knowing that not only can I do this in a class, I can do this with gunfire. I've done it so many times. And then I had Tiffany Little Canfield, who was actually a very good actor, and she picked up the role of Sinatra. And she came in and we went into the room pretty quickly, honestly, 5-10 minutes we worked on this thing. And we were just like, we got it, we can do it. And we went in and I did it a couple times and they pushed it around. But for Dan, he said that was all he needed, and that he took that tape and then he showed it to everybody at Hulu, and Sterling K. Brown said I was dope, and a bunch of things that I still don't know how to fully digest. But I was able to give him the audition he needed to go push the unknown actor over the more notable actor.
The unknown actor who has 20 years of hitting the ground in various different genres, right, and riding the bike over and over again. I love that Dan advocated for you. I can't picture anybody else. And if they would have put a quote unquote name, if they would put Ethan Hawke in your role, for me, it would have been slightly distracting, specifically for your role.
Yeah.
Both of them, we need to suspend, we need to not know. We need to not fill in so much.
Right. Yeah. Well,
brilliant.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. And yes, and Dan did advocate for me. He advocated for me in the biggest way possible. And I am so happy he's proud of my work, because he put this really important role on the line and trusted me with it. And then what I want to also say is then there's working with Julianne, because
gotta ask, that's what's going to be my next question. What did you steal from her? Because that scene should be evaluated in acting class.
I'm a master stealer. I love to steal. It's my whole thing. That's the only education I have. I don't know what I've stole from that woman yet. Trying to steal from her is like trying to steal smoke. Watching Sterling is brilliant. As you say, he's one of the best there is. I understand what he's doing. He's better at it than maybe I'll ever be, but I know what he's doing. I understand his approach to the work. It's very athletic. He gets his blood up and then he puts his whole heart out there. When I watch him in takes, he's not sure where he's going, but he's going there with his whole heart. And it's a masterclass, but I get it. I don't know what Julianne's doing, man.
Is she doing something different every take? Because that scene specifically, I've watched it probably 25 times.
Really?
Oh God, I love it so much.
I really wish I could tell you.
Where you're like, every twist, turn that you guys both played off of each other, the discovery was
You're really
unbelievable.
sweet. Thank you so much for
I,
taking that time.
what do you mean? I'm also a craftsman. We study
Yeah,
what we see
totally.
when you're like,
100%.
I can't see what's even happening here. And I'm so blown away. When she comes around that desk, how you
That
guys
part.
both?
That part.
And that I wanted to ask, was
Was mocking my breathing. She was there, like, this is, first of all, there is nothing, this is the most unassuming genius you'll ever meet. There's nothing about Julianne when you meet
none at
her.
all. I've met her
It's,
a handful of times. Nothing to
yeah,
do with acting. We can sit at a table.
such a person, such a
Such a
pleasant,
great, beautiful
like,
person.
charming person.
Yes,
You would
yes.
not think that person can breathe fire. And whatever, there's not a line. It's really, honestly, I don't mean to be, I hope she never listens to this because it would be very embarrassing for her, but it's really something because I love actors and I love acting and I'm watching, right? And I've been such a fan of hers for a long time. I don't know when it starts because this very easy relationship that she has with you carries right into the beginning of the scene, far past action. And then you almost wonder, like, is she aware we've started? I had moments where I'm like, we're doing the thing, right?
Mhm.
I don't know what's going on, man.
Was
It's
she on text or
brand,
was
she
she
was
allowed
on
to?
text perfectly. She's
Because I was going to say
technical.
that. Oh,
She's proficient technically. And that's what bothers me is that what she's doing is so weird and spontaneous and completely based on what I'm doing. Like, to the point where if I had a reaction, if my breath changed based on what she had just said, it was noted, it was commented on in the most subtle way. She was fucking smelling me. And I was like, I don't understand. But wonderfully, that's exactly where Billy's at, right? Is I think I know what the power dynamic is here. I stormed in, but
hmm.
I'm weirdly now on my heels and I feel like I'm in trouble and I don't know if I'm winning or losing this thing. And it's, she's just perfectly cast and she perfectly embodies exactly what she needs to bring. Again, talking, saying lofty things about an artist, and I hope she never hears that. I don't mean to embarrass her. I just genuinely don't know what the fuck she's doing, Alyshia. And I've been watching people do this for a long time. And honestly, I'm not sure she does. It's just, it is effortless.
She is fully available.
That
She
part.
is fully available and it is effortless. And
Yeah.
thank you for, I've been chomping at the bit to talk to somebody
Oh, cool.
about this. I've told my agent, I've told other actors, I'm like,
Yeah.
what? So when you were coming on, I was like, I cannot wait to get to that specific scene
Cool.
and
I'm
the
so glad.
craftsman of that, because I want to give it back to you too. There's one thing to sit across from somebody when you can't figure out what they're doing and playing with them. And for
Yeah.
you guys to hold that dynamic, so tightrope of the power dynamics going back and forth. I
Yeah.
just really truly believe it's some of the best television. And yes, we got Dan Fogelman as the writer, but
Yeah.
you guys lifting what's there on the page to a visceral experience. We don't, God bless Hulu and some of the streaming
I
shows now,
know,
because
right?
we didn't used to have that.
No.
This is a television show that turns you, it's not actually your stereotypical Dan Fogelman. Yes, in the snappy
No.
script, but or scrappy wording, but it's just God bless television
He,
that like
he's
makes you think outside the box, and that's what you've been doing is thinking outside the box while learning what you have to do to be in the box. But then how
Thank
do
you.
I get out of the
I
box?
appreciate that. Thank you very much. Yeah, a couple of things about that. Dan is just like insanely brave, could easily do what he knows he can do, and has decided to give himself like an unbelievable challenge and write in genres that he hasn't written in before
Mhm.
and bring on an incredible writing team. Everybody in that room is really amazing. But yeah, I think that he's out at the edge of himself too. I don't think he's playing it safe in any way. I think John and Glenn and the whole directing team were finding the show as we were doing it, that it was such a terrifically successful experiment that so many people enjoy it is a bit not surprising, but it's really exciting because nobody felt, and we all knew we were doing something very cool, but nobody felt like this is going to be the number one show in the world. And it's the number one show in the world. So
Yeah.
that's also to do with zeitgeist and everything else, but something that people are responding to, I think, is the lack of guardrails, is the undefinable quality of moment to moment genre shifts and real relationships with a high flying, death defying, big concept idea. I don't know. I don't know. It's very cool to be a part of it.
It's incredible. And look, every once in a while that'll happen in our careers, and I call them mountaintops. And
Yeah.
you hope that you get another mountaintop like this. And what I mean by the mountaintop, it's the synchronicity of damn good fucking writing,
Yeah.
incredible collaborative, creative crew and cast, and
Yeah.
then it hits the zeitgeist.
Yeah.
You can't always manipulate all of those, that triangulation of
Right.
goodness.
Yeah.
Okay, so then going from this,
What the hell do you do now?
Exactly. And not that we have to say it into a specific project.
No.
After doing first season of True Detective, nobody knew what it was going to be. Then I do it, it comes out. There's a lot of newness, novelty to what I want to try next, because
Right.
I've hit that trifecta. And then you're like, okay, how is doing Paradise, having Paradise be right at now, how is that affecting your opportunities and how you want to work next?
Cool. Yeah, no, I'm still figuring that out because, like I said, there's more. I was already getting a healthy amount of auditions, I think, because my agents, who are very good, call people and say, he was a series regular on Animal Kingdom. And that rings out. That makes
Absolutely.
sense. No one's ever going to go watch what I did on Animal Kingdom. They're not bringing me in because they love my work on that show. They're bringing me in because I've got the brand, right? What that's done, if I'm honest, I think has put me in a lot of piles that I can't quite fight my way to the top of, because I read for a lot of things that end up being offered to people. And that's awesome. It's been amazing to be in any conversation. It's been amazing to be in front of different eyeballs, whatever. But you do start going, okay, so I'm the 12th man on the bench is what's going on here. All of a sudden, this show is very popular. More opportunities are coming that feel as if they're more targeted for me, as if they want the guy who just played Billy on Paradise. We're yet to figure out exactly what we do next, but I also know that I'll just say for people on the outside too, the business is still trying to find its way back to its feet. So there's so many variables at any given time. There's where I'm at in my career. There's who's writing what and who's able to produce it. There's the major contraction of our business, at least right now, that's still trying to take its next breath. And so I can't exactly tell you which is which. I can say there's been some offers for things, but they're not there. It's not what you might imagine. It's not maybe what it would have been in a different. No, and it tends to be movies that I think are looking to just throw somebody who's trending on the internet in them.
Totally.
For
To
very
get that,
little
they think
money.
they might get money. Yes.
And they're going to pay me little for the opportunity of being the face of a thing. And it's okay, appreciate it, but I'm not seeing on the page anything that feels like it needs me, and no one's coming to me saying it's got to be you, cuz it's just like you're part of the shiny thing that's happening, and that's cool, but it's an interesting moment, and I'm so grateful, but I'm really grateful for my team and my friends who are helping me figure out, okay, what do you do with a flash in the pan moment, because it is what it is, but it isn't what it isn't.
100%. So then I think that every platform or every moment in an actor's career, when they're relevant, allows you to have some opportunity to wait. So what are you doing with the opportunity while you're waiting? Because your bike is revved up, it's shiny now, it's got a lot of tools. I think it's hard sometimes for an actor, and maybe it's not for you, to then get to a certain level in their careers where they might be working less now because they're more relevant.
And
so what are you working on in that time? Or are you just able to now, because you've been given permission by Michael to be like, I'm going to be doing this, so I'm fine, whether it takes a year for me to find that next
let's go for a hike. I also, just full transparency, because I love this podcast and I love your audience. I love this community that I get to be a part of. That feels only like a community when we call out to one another like this. Like, I also got to think about money.
Thank you for being honest.
I'm not like financially safe. I have not had to make a professional cup of coffee in 15 years. And thank God, like, I'm so grateful to say that. And yet I'm lucky to carry some responsibility in my family too. And there are things that bottom lines I just have to meet. There have been wonderful years. There's been Animal Kingdom making me a series regular years. And then there's been the COVID pandemic that happened afterwards,
Mhm.
a long trough of maybe not working again for another year. And then there's been getting to go work for Kevin Costner. But that paycheck, I'm not Sam Worthington. So
Mhm.
I'm also lucky to be part of the project. I paid very fairly, but then there's almost 8 months before anybody cast me again. And then there's Dan Fogelman. And what the hell is that? And everything's amazing. And then that show, honestly, we stopped filming that in June, July of last year.
Mhm.
And I've been looking for jobs since then. Now it's
Mhm.
out.
Mhm.
And I've been able to do some cool guest stars on some shows that I love. Now it's out and it's like, okay, cool. What's that mean? And I want to wait and be patient and everything, but also I want to work and
Totally.
I need to keep making a living. And I would have thought when I was younger that if I said, yeah, I just did this major television show with Sterling K. Brown and did some movies with Kevin Costner, I would have been driving a very fancy
Uh,
car.
yep.
And maybe in another era of this industry, I would have been, or maybe not, or whatever. I'm so grateful. I'm grateful through the roof, but I'm also trying to make the right artistic decision while also trying to make the right financial decision. And it's not stressful. I got to have a certain degree of faith and surrender, as you always do.
Mhm.
I'm calling out on the frequencies for the storytellers that need specifically me. I want to bring my whole tool belt to something that feels like it matters. And
Yes.
I need to make sure that they're in a position to pay me enough that I can put my financial worries to the side and dive into because that's what we love to do. Just pay me enough that I don't have to think that and I can
Yeah. So I can fully
dive
be
into
here.
this script
Yes.
and
Yes.
only do this. And so I invite it all. I invite the lucrative network show that will help us buy a house. I invite the indie movie that comes straight out of someone's guts and can't pay me much but needs me. I invite it all and we'll just see what a career, I know you're going through this too, like what a
Yep.
career looks like in 2025 going forward. Like, how do we
Exactly.
continue to
It's always
do it?
retrospect, but when we're in it, I hate even asking that question because I know that there's nothing, it's so out of our control.
Yeah.
But do you have tent poles or like reasonings behind taking certain jobs? And
Mm.
I think that there are three really main components to when you look at whether you take a job again. And you said a lot of them right in that
Yeah.
moment. Like one of my favorite interviews, Adam Scott, he did a beautiful film that went to Sundance in 2009, The Vicious Kind. He's the lead of
Hmm.
it. And then he
Yeah.
did Piranha 5 afterwards. And people were
Yeah,
giving him a hard
totally.
time. And they're like,
Yeah,
he was like, I got a kids to put to school. So see who you're
absolutely.
working with and where the story is going to lead you are your
Yeah,
next choices.
that's
So
right. Yeah, that's right. And anytime we get to put on makeup and play pretend with our friends. That's awesome. And then there's also the reality of I set out to do this. The first time I think I ever said in earnest I'm gonna be an actor when I grow up, I was 14 and I'm still doing it.
you're doing it.
But I'm doing what a 14-year-old kid told me to do, Alicia. And so
Oh, I
sometimes I'm
know.
like, yeah,
Is
all
this
right,
mad?
sit down, kid. We got to look at the budget here and we got to really talk about your plan. And honestly, the only problem that I never have is going to work. Like a lot of people go to work and they go, oh no, another day of work. When I go to work, it is my favorite thing in the
The best.
whole wide world. So I said recently, I don't want more than this. I just want more of this. That's my prayer.
And I'm going to say right now, we want more of this as audience
I
members too.
appreciate you.
Well done.
Thank you
Keep
so
going.
much.
Come back. Where can everybody follow along? So as when you make that next step into
Yeah,
what you're
right.
going to do,
Yeah,
we can see
right.
what that is.
I'm trying to be a more active participant on Instagram, a
Okay.
wonderful space that I'm learning to embrace. Jon Beavers, Johnny Beeves is what I'm called there. Come
Mhm.
follow me and we'll hang out. And thank you so much for having me. But beyond that, thank you so much for this resource. Like I said, I'm having a wonderful moment. People are appreciating me and it's so cool. I still also feel that I'm in the moment where I go to the gym every morning and I run on the treadmill and I listen to an actor or a writer or a director. I listen to people who are in this business, talk about this business, talk about their process. The best parts for me are, yeah, but how are you actually from day to day, from moment to moment? How do you make this thing work? I love the art. I want to talk about the art forever, but to talk about where the art intersects the business, there's a bit of a shortage of this space. And you are very much making that space, fostering that space. And so, as a participant, but as a fan, thank you very much.
Oh, Johnny, thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
Okay, your only homework. I'm gonna give you homework. You have to listen.
Please do.
You have to listen to Sarah Wayne Callie's interview on this. You have to scroll back.
I can't wait.
But hers is beast.
She's a hero to me. She's a hero to me. It was Michael and Sarah who sat down, and that still is probably the most special time I've ever had as an actor. We living on an army base, right? We were surrounded by these real heroes, and we were getting to tell their story. It felt like every drop of sweat mattered. And Michael Kelly and Sarah Wayne Callie sat us down, and they were like, "Guys, this is a special one. When somebody from the East Coast comes to the West Coast, somebody from the West Coast shows up on the East Coast, you get together, you have a beer, you keep track of each other for the rest of your lives. These ones don't always happen. This is a special one." And for those two mentors to look at us and be like, "Hey, pay attention. It's happening right now." And you'll go on and you'll want another job and you'll be desperate and you'll be frantic and you'll be blissed out and whatever, but it's happening right now. And I'm so grateful when someone I trust helps me look at the moment in the journey that I'm currently participating in and recognize that, like, oh, this is it. I want to keep going, but this is it.
Also, way to get another one of those hits. Like, you're in that moment right now. God bless, enjoy.
Thank you.
And then let them know I want to do season 2. Thank you so much.
Hell yeah. They'd be so lucky to have you. So lucky to have you.
I'm hounding my team right now. Thank you so much for doing this. Thank you.
Thank you.